Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new Ministry of Health. My name is Jill.
And I'm Jamie.
And we're here to talk to you about being caregivers. And I think Jamie and I were just talking just a few minutes ago. We were sort of going over what we would do. And one of the things that we talked about most is what we would do when we just needed time for ourselves. When the time came when you couldn't take any more. What is your out? That's what we're talking about. What is her out? And I have an out too. What is your out?
Yeah, it's so important to have that out. So I go to my room. I take a time out and I go to my room and I close the door for a little while. And then I go back to reality. But I do need to check out every once in a while just to breathe and regroup.
So when you go to your room, do your husband holler through the house for you?
Yes.
He does?
Yes, he does.
Because that's what happens to me. So I go to the grocery store. Well, I say I'm going to the grocery store, and then I never go to the grocery store and I come back 3 hours later.
Well, I have that same
That's
trick.
my out.
I have that same trick.
That's my out. So we're smiling right now, but being a caregiver sometimes isn't really this funny or this playful, but we can do it because we can relate to each other.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to Jamie, and we were talking about how it affects the family and how being a caregiver really does affect the family. And I was sharing how even this week, well, last week, my granddaughter, she's 4, well, she's 5 now, she was graduating from pre-K. Mm-hmm. And my daughter said to me, Mom, how you weren't there. You weren't there. And I was at the graduation, but I was at the graduation with my husband who has the concerns, the health concerns. And I think I'm so accustomed to making sure he's okay. I'm so accustomed to being on watch that my body must have said something, because if you'd asked me, I would have said I was there.
Yeah.
But when I was out of that environment, and she said, you just didn't seem like yourself. And I checked in and I said, and I wasn't. And so it doesn't end.
No.
It doesn't end.
No, it doesn't. And I think it's important to know that you do have to take the time for yourself. The same thing happened with me. You know, there was a family function, and I asked my husband to take the kids, and I didn't go because I just needed that time for myself. And he was around, he was able to do it, and you know, everyone in my family was looking for me, but I needed a little time away and quiet.
Another thing we talked about, I think is a word or term that Ron and I coined, but I think it's a word that can be used by any caregiver, and that is the new norm. Yes. That is moving into the change in a way where you understand what you're giving up. Because if not, resentment, bitterness,
right,
distance were some of the things that Ron was getting from me. And even in my situation, I even have friends who want something from us that we can no longer give. You know, I see it this way. I have a plate that's a certain size, and it's about a certain size, and I can't put another thing on that plate.
Right.
So in order for me to function and not feel resentment or not give off that type of energy, I have to say, Jill, what can you put on your plate?
Yeah.
Only if I can take something off. If I can't take anything off, then I can't put anything on my plate.
I'm just getting past that phase of resentment as a caregiver with my own daughter, because you do go through different phases during the caregiving of any chronically ill family member or someone close to you. Resentful, and then I was ashamed because I was resentful of my own child being sick because I couldn't see the end to it. You know, it was like, my goodness, we're going to be dealing with this, you know, on some level for the rest of our lives, and how's that going to affect me? And I had to step back at one point and say, why am I saying me, me, me all the time? You know?
I get it, but I think that I had to stop pretending like I didn't have plans.
Yeah.
You know, I was available all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, and then the only way I could function without feeling guilty was to pretend like I never had plans.
You just hit it on the nose. You were always available.
Yes.
And
Which isn't true.
No, but we have to stop being always available for that person that is sick. We do need to have some time for ourselves, or else that time that we're always available to them isn't really quality time, you know,
Right.
because we're being resentful again.
Yeah, and I think that as a skilled, I think once you become a caregiver, you have to be attentive, and so the same attentiveness that I had for my husband, now I'm this attentive person. So now everybody around me, if something is going on, you okay?
Yeah.
You know, and so now others want that from me,
Right.
and then I don't have anything to give. So I've probably been in more than a few skirmishes over the past 3 or 4 months, just simply because I'm having to explain over and over and over again to people who are accustomed to me picking up the telephone and calling them back. Sometimes I just can't return a call
Right.
because I don't want to give another care. It's not even that I don't have time. I don't want to here's the truth. I don't want to pick up the phone and nurture one more person.
Right. Right. You want to
And
nurture
it sounds
yourself.
awful.
You have to nurture yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I do. And it sounds awful, but it is the only way out. And so, again, I have adopted this new norm, and I don't try to go back and find that plan I had for all the things that my husband and I would have been doing by now. I spend less time with my granddaughter, so I'm trying to make time for that. I don't like that a lot.
Right.
And every time I hear her voice, okay, and every time I hear her voice, I feel so bad that I'm not the me that she knew. When she was born, I refused to let her go to a sitter. Myself and her other grandmother, we took off. So my plan was to bond with this child.
Right.
And then that plan was interrupted. And it's very hard. It's very hard to do. And so I shared on my way here with Jerron, I said, I need a break. And I don't even want a break from me. I need a little loving from that angel that I call Zuri. And but I want her to know me. And I don't want the pain of our family to change who I know I want to be to her. And that is why my norm has to become, this new norm has to become what I'm adopting, and I have to take something off of my plate. But this is hard for families.
Right.
Because you want to love everybody because, everyone in your family, but then if Julia is your person, then that means she's probably gotten more attention.
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes other children can resent that.
Well, that's something that I've discussed with, even their, Julia sees a psychologist just for, being chronically ill. It causes depression and so many other things. And I actually brought our other daughter because it does affect other people in your families because now they're not getting the same amount of attention from you as they were. And, it's not fair to them neither.
Did she ever voice it, or did you have to kind of help her
She
along?
didn't. She doesn't voice it because she realizes that her sister is sick. So she stays quiet about it. But when we were talking with the psychiatrist or psychologist, she opened up about it, that she did feel that she was being somewhat neglected. And she felt guilty looking for my attention because she knew Julia needed my attention more because it was a medical reason.
No, it is so much. I think on one of the previous segments with Dr. Lamont, he talked about the 3 areas and how they just constantly affect each other. And so it's so important if a child is, the mental health, the spiritual health, the physical health, if any of those things are out of balance,
Right.
then other areas are affected. And so it's the same way with your daughter, even though you seem to have gotten on top of it, right, with Julia?
Yeah, she's doing much better, but she, it will be a lifelong, battle with different foods and just trying to keep the inflammation down in her body. But
so you have to cook the different food?
oh yes, so we cook everything, organic and from scratch. And we were just talking about this because one of the things that I've tried to do to make life a little bit easier is find healthy, organic, prepared foods. Because I was you know, up until 10 o'clock at night with all of these different meals,
And how
chopping
long have
everything.
you been doing this? Meaning cooking from scratch
From
like this?
scratch. Oh my goodness.
Against, I mean, before you wanted to. Now you may want to, but back then you had to.
Probably a good 8 years, you know, where I started really looking at food as a medicine for her. And so that meant, you know, buying everything clean and organic and then chopping it and cooking it all myself. You know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and you know, I'm trying to lessen that a little, that burden on myself a little bit.
And how would you do that? I mean, nothing has changed.
Well,
Did you teach your husband how to do it?
No.
That's the trick. Teach your husband.
No. His, I think, best meal is pennies and beans, which is hot dogs and canned beans, which she can't eat. But, you know, we'll go to Panera Bread and have a salad with, you know, avocado and chicken on it, minus the cheese.
So you searched out the places
yes,
that you feel had clean food?
Yeah. So that's, you know, one way of lessening the burden on my time so that I have a little bit more time for Hannah, the other child.
Who's oldest?
Julia is oldest, yeah.
Okay.
I have a friend that calls Hannah the cruise control kid because, you know, she doesn't have problems and she's been really easy and she's on cruise control, but that doesn't mean she doesn't need attention and she doesn't need mom, you know, and I have to remind myself of that often.
Has this, I know for me how this has affected my marriage, you know, how it affected my marriage. And the way my marriage is affected is because I want to do other things. And so I want Deron to be as serious about my husband being serious about whatever he can do than as I am about what I do for him. And that was never his personality. I mean, he's just not that person. And so, you know, I get so bothered, and especially again if I find myself wishing that I had time to spend with my granddaughter.
Yeah. It's been definitely a challenge to find time for, you know, a relationship outside of my, you know, with my husband. But it's important that we, you know, find that time so that we have that support system for one another to, you know, deal with taking care of a chronically ill child.
So what would you say? There's someone out there who has a situation like yours. I mean, you're at least 8 years into the cooking part.
Oh yeah.
A situation like yours, and they are about ready to just walk away from it all. Did you ever have a thought of walking away?
No.
So,
No.
Did you ever thought of separating yourself, just feeling too overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
what would you say to someone?
You really do need to take the time. Don't beat yourself up over, you know, anything. That there is no perfect way of taking care of someone. You know, I think love and support, just being there, but really taking care of yourself too, and not feeling guilty about taking time for yourself is very important. And to, you know, again, not feel guilty about that, because that was the biggest thing, is I felt so guilty for so long to take time for myself. But it has made such a tremendous difference in how I take care of Julia now that I take care of myself also.
That's true.
And I wish it didn't take me so long to realize it.
Yeah, well, Jaime, it was so great talking to you.
You too.
Doing this with you, because I wasn't interviewing her. That's just my way of doing things. But just sharing our story with other people. And we're going to take a break now. Thank you for listening. And this is Jill.
And Jamie.
From the new Ministry of
Health.